Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to the Opposition Leader Press Conference. First of all, let me thank you for coming out. With me, as usual, is our Opposition Leader. He will be making opening statements, after which we will be taking your questions. Bharrat.
Thank you for coming to this press conference. We have seen the headlines today, and I thought it necessary that I start with this issue that has made the front page in the newspapers today. The front page of the Guyana Chronicle. Big progress in addressing AML CFP deficiencies. And no doubt this article emanated from a statement made by the Attorney General in the National Assembly when it last met. I thought I should speak about it because if we lull ourselves into a sense of false security, then we are going to repeat a lot of the mistakes made by the Attorney General, and we are going to put major sectors of our economy in jeopardy, particularly the economic sectors. We'll give them this false sense of security that everything is going well in this sector. So I want to read the conclusion of that statement made by the Attorney General in the Parliament. He said, Guyana was, however, the last paragraph, Guyana was, however, warned by both the FATF and CFATF to be cognizant of the fact that exiting the third round means that we are now in the fourth round of mutual evaluations, with which comes tremendous challenges. Under the fourth round, countries are assessed for technical compliance with the FATF revised 40 recommendations, as well as the level of effectiveness of its AML CFP system. This therefore means that we still have a lot of work to do. Now, this is not a report on progress. This is an admission that what he said to the country, that we were free and clear, that we were now happy and good with the international community regarding money laundering issues, that it is not so. That there is a fourth round, and the fourth round will have what he calls mutual evaluations. But we are not going to be evaluating FATF or CFATF, because mutual means we are going to look at each other, that there are two parties. We are going to be evaluated. And we may very well find that we are not compliant in applying this act. Having lulled the business community and everyone in the country saying, since we got into office, we made so much progress, we have exited the process, and convey the impression that they have exited FATF review. Now there are different rungs of review. You may have exited one. But we could have avoided a lot of this had they supported us right at the beginning, when we made two attempts in the National Assembly to pass recommendations that would have made us compliant at that time, that would not have seen us going through this enhanced scrutiny. So I want to warn the country again. He spoke about how their procedures now, he said, financial institutions in Guyana can now carry out transactions without the hassles and delays they've grown used to due to enhanced scrutiny required as a result of Guyana being on the FATF public, you'll see no change in the review process or the things that you have to do to, say, open an account or send money abroad or receive money from abroad. And relationship with correspondent banks because of what he said, the progress they have made. So again, that is very misleading. We cannot play games with the future of the financial sector. I've argued, and we run the risk by this, the attempt to score political points, but without giving factual and truthful assessments to people so that they can be addressed. We run the risk of jeopardizing the financial sector. And I had pointed out earlier that this is even worse given the in the developed world are cutting correspondent banking relationships with many institutions in the developing world. And the Caribbean faces this. And if that happens and it snowballs out of control, I've spoken about us going back to the Stone Age in terms of the financial sector, developed his attention. That his statement in Parliament was he basically now had to back down from his earlier positions, but he hid all of this in the last earlier things. It speaks about going after serious threats to the system. So as I had said earlier, the government has excused itself for the innocence, and therefore the economic difficulties we've seen, the hardships in the country, they result from this act of cleaning up illicit flows. And that in the future, look, to say to a lot of the supporters, it's more through a whisper campaign, that this is the reason why. But we have not seen any major drug busts that would have had a major impact on cleaning up illicit flows. Not seen that in the country. Even the gold proceeds that they said was the gold, 15,000 ounces were smuggled out of the country, was of inflows into the country had they blocked it. And we have not seen no evidence of them finding any smuggled gold in large quantities or this money flowing in. That under this review, they'll be required to go after actual cases than SOCO now going after getting a list from the office of the president of 9 foreign laundering. But they are not focused on that. And if they do not, they will fail the test of the fourth round. They'll fail it and jeopardize our financial system, but the economy further. So that tender board, the central tender board, the National Procurement Authority, has given sole sourcing approval to the Ministry of Public Works for over 400 million weeks before the end of the year when they have to close the books. Now, maybe that you can't find a comparable. So we don't know. This now gives the Ministry of Public Works the authority to buy equipment. Secondly, we have seen the abuse of force account. A lot of the money is subtracting out. That is being used to siphon off tens of metro are being done. One time, I don't know if you recall this issue, the driveway in State House when I was president. And they came up with huge sum of money. And so when I asked to see the measured work, force account doesn't have the kind of scrutiny that you have if you have a project publicly tendered. And this ministry has a proclivity towards using this method. And we are aware now of the abuse because individuals are speaking out. So you will get more information about it. But now that the Public Procurement Commission is in place, people can complain to the Public Procurement Commission and they themselves can initiate investigations. And they were treated unfairly, they can protest. But it also leaves a room for public entities to start using this facility available to lodge the protest. Lodge protests before the PPC on many of these issues that we're finding. Bids and role. Because when we contracts or to do anything, and that the people who are adjudicating or managing these entities, that they will be held liable. They can't hide behind, well, it went to cabinet and we got a no objection, or it went to the IDB for no objection. They would be responsible at the Durban Park fiasco. $8 billion were transferred quietly, and therefore we are aware that they have the fiscal space to collective bargaining. And this was just a few weeks ago in the parliament, and he ignored the whole experience, that the negotiation, he ignored that entire experience. He ignored it totally. That it was in violation also of collective bargaining, that when they made the announcement, the unilateral announcement of the payout, but he still lives in a distant world, as though only ideal things are happening now, and that everything was bad under the PPP. But since they have this fiscal space, I'm urging the Minister of Finance, which would be a big boost to the economy if people have money to spend. It will make a big difference for the holiday season, for the retailers, a whole range of people, to restore the 1 month tax-free bonus that we gave to the disciplined services. So the police, the fire, the army, and the prisons. To extend that 1 month bonus, since they have not, their public servants didn't get what was promised. It was between 1% and 10% on a sliding scale. To extend the bonus to the public servants. That they can, since they have the fiscal space now, to pay the sugar workers even 5%, not what the 25% that they promised before elections, but 5% now and 5% for last year. Not even tax-free, but to pay them the wages, because they do have the fiscal space. The $8 billion that was just transferred into the consolidated fund, and they have been saying how well they're doing. I called on him to do that even before the budget, or to announce it at budget time. This would be a major boost to those people, but also to the economy itself, because it would increase disposable income, spending, and it will bolster economic activities. Now, further to all of this, we've seen the resurgence of this whole shares issue at the November 2 press conference. And he still doesn't know. This government is so sparse, so disrespectful of people. They think we're all fools in this country. They think we're all fools. So this juggling. Oh, it's not us in the AFC, it's the APNU people, it's somebody else's responsibility. It's their responsibility. The lack of transparency comes from all of them. Now, it was clear we went out to public tender for GT&T shares. The price received was $7 million. The highest bid was $7 million. That's point one. We gathered that a Chinese company might be interested. The Chinese company came, the negotiations ended up at $30 million for the shares, when the public tender was $7 million. So the government decided to sell the shares. $25 million was paid, and that is not disputed. They're not disputing it. $25 million paid over. Agreements, nothing like silver share. It's an economic terminology. So there's a golden share. So they said they did not get the directors on the board as promised, that they don't want to pay. They had engagements with the ambassador. They claimed the ambassador gave them approval for not paying the $5 million. The ambassador said $5 million, as far as we're concerned. It's as straightforward as that. Harman then went to China and obfuscated the issue by saying he had some info that the money was paid. We're saying today the money was not paid. And if they can trace that that money was paid to anyone, then they should be locking up this person if it was paid. It's as simple as that. All you have to do is to ask the Chinese company, who did you pay the money to? And they would say, we made it by this check or this transfer, and you can trace it in a single day. But they kept the issue alive to say, oh, it might be some possibility of corruption. Not pure nonsense. It's as simple as that. The other issues, the city council and garbage. We have seen now the city asking for a bailout. I want to recall press conferences I've had over a year ago when I said that if the cleanup is good, and I supported the cleanup, but it had to be transparently done, and we wanted to know the source of the money. We found out that the city was financing the cleaning up, but there were no tenders. We believe, but we don't have details until now, but we believe, based on information we're getting from sources, that about $800 million were spent. And that this money was given to contractors who are sympathetic to APNU. $800 million, no public tender. But the financing of this was done from arrears collection, from money owed to the city, which they got through some announced amnesty. The process of negotiation itself to settle the arrears with individuals was not transparent, but let's leave that aside for a moment. I argue, if you are going to use your arrears to clean up the city, what will happen when you can't collect arrears anymore because the arrears have disappeared? Can you sustain it from current revenue? And everyone, we didn't pay attention to it. Well, now the city is in a mess again. And it will even get worse because they can't collect the garbage. They have no money to collect garbage now. So where is this single big initiative of APNU that they made the place, look how we made the place so clean. And the city has changed after just a short period of APNU in government. They've gone silent on that. It's either they give now the city council the money to continue cleaning up, or they claim falsely that they did something that they never did. And frankly speaking, that was the only thing that that's the only thing that many people believe they did well when they got into office. But it has, as predicted, now gone back to zero. And this spurious claim that they cannot deal with the metering contract, the contract to install meters in the city, parking meters, is disingenuous, because they have the majority of councillors. APNU has the majority of councillors on the city council. All they have to say to their councillors, like we said to councillors, you were campaigning on a platform not to raise taxes in any of the NDCs, and we are not in favor of raising any rates and taxes across this country. And our NDCs, when we campaign for local government elections, we made that clear. Things are already too difficult for people to now have to face increased taxes, rates and taxes. So we are opposed to that. But they can easily kill this parking meter contract or have it adjusted. And it is atrocious from all that we've seen. It will enslave the city and its residents. It will cause business to divert from the city significantly. It will enrich a few individuals. This contract is bad. And we were going to debate it, and we've seen the fancy footworks again that is so now apparent with this government, that every time a contentious issue comes up that they can't confront, and we move it to the parliament or somewhere where we can expose it, you put a whole pile of stumbling blocks in our way so that we can't expose the corruption and the inefficiencies. So the parking meter contract now cannot be debated in Parliament because we wanted to expose in a full debate what is taking place there and raise our objections there. The same way that we have done with the project, the Durban Park project. And really, now that you have seen the probing, what we have done in Parliament, the sort of probing, the media should be doing this. In a country where you have the free press, they should really be probing this issue. So after such a long period where we put statements, we ask questions in Parliament, and they have made not answering a virtue. They have made not answering questions in Parliament or obfuscation or dealing with dilatory tactics are all now a virtue. They laugh in Parliament when we ask questions and a minister avoids the questions. Questions about transparency, there will be a collective laughter on their side, and they would say, our time now, or you see the body language. Oh, we have them all on this. It happened with the bond, and it happened again with this the Durban Park project. Look at the presentations, and I want to urge Guyanese, because they always do this. They come and make long, anytime we have opposition day or our business is being conducted, they force it late into the night by bringing a whole pile of extraneous issues, minister statement, long statements. It's supposed to be short policy statements by ministers. They're abusing now statements by ministers. If you look at the standing order, it says either emergency or short policy or policy statements. They're using statements by ministers now to talk about their work program, abusing it because they use up a lot of time and then shift the debate late into the night when people can't listen to them. I want to urge Guyanese to stay up and watch some of these debates, and you will see when we ask questions about how much money was collected, who was it collected from, how is the money accounted for? How was it spent? Has it entered the asset register of the state? What about you telling us that there were no public funds? All of these issues, they never dealt with those issues. We hear from Cathy Hughes and so many others, oh, this is a wonderful project, it's beneficial to the country. It would make us into a first world country. The point, and then criticizing the PPP, you spent $45 million on filling up the site. You recall in Parliament, they named the contractor who filled it up. And that was one presentation made, that we wasted money there, 45 million, filling up the site, and that now it's a jungle. 11 years ago we did that. And the virtue, they don't see again how that they were making a statement on the PPP, on PPP stewardship, by saying that. They thought it was a corrupt act, that they were exposing it. And some of our colleagues in Parliament pointed out, in two months, maybe 4 months ago, you completed that project. And we don't have figures for it. 11 years ago, the PPP spent 45 million there. And you can find in public records now the tender process and how much we spent and who the contractor was. We don't know now. After 2 months of spending $1 billion, we think, there, not 45, $1 billion, who were the contractors, how much they were paid, through what process. They didn't see that they were making a statement about our stewardship. The same way that Jordan did when he came with this debt document to the Parliament. And I pointed out that I'm happy he did it, maybe we should have done it, but he found the figures there to do it. We could not have done that when we took office. And so this is vital, what has happened here. We have now found out that it's a private company. You've seen this. A private company. So now, Patterson said the government had nothing to do with it. Absolutely, this was a private company. But we've seen employees of the state on the private company, and as a director, and a minister of the government. And so, will we ever know about how much money was collected? So if we take Patterson's statement at face value, and I don't think it's true, they knew everything what was taking place there. But this private company doesn't have any tax exemption. And if it collected $700 odd million, it has to pay taxes, corporate taxes on it. So they will have to pay around $200 million in taxes. And so the directors will be responsible for this if it's a private company, because you have to pay taxes on donation too. So we'd like to see the accounts, whether the GRA will go after this private company now. So there are a whole pile of questions. This has just opened up, and it's just like when the contract was, when the media went to the bond. And by the way, I don't know if the drugs is still being stored there. Nothing so far, I'm told, but we're still paying $12.5 million a month. And nothing, it's not in use. But we're paying $12.5 million a month to rent a house that we're not using it. And I've asked the media to go after, to look into the many contracts, rental properties that are for ministers too. There is a big story there too, but you're not going to get it soon. So a lot of these things lack transparency. The president doesn't see all of this though. He believes that everything else is PPP. Now, may I just come to the primary purpose of what I was here today, to talk about the budget, because I promised that I'm not going to be very long. So the budget is going to be announced, very read on Monday, and I promise people that the last press conference, and some who called me, I think Actual News called me, and I said, wait until my press conference, I'll speak about this issue. And so we wish the Minister of Finance well, and we hope that the budget will address or put in place measures to address the problems of our society that will enhance social welfare, increase public safety, and improve livelihoods. That is the creation of jobs and income for people. And we will support any measure that does this, that will meet any one or achieve any one of those objectives. But the framework for the budget, I believe, has already been established, and the media should not be in any suspense about what to expect, because the President, in his speech to the National Assembly, defined the framework for the budget. And so we are hoping that what he said in his speech will be further elaborated on in the budget, and that we will see concrete, specific measures, policies, programs, projects to give effect to those objectives that he outlined. So the President said they have a green agenda, and we expect that that the green agenda is the overriding framework within which his government will pursue national development. He's gone further to call it a green state. So that's good. Now, in this budget, if you announce that as your objective, we must see how you're going to achieve that. And so the President first of all said Iwokrama will be the site from the next financial year for the establishment of an International Institute for Biodiversity. Now, I had pointed out that this was a project that we had written about and is part of our LCDS program. We had discussed it with Norway. We are far advanced in implementing it, so I wish them well. But unless we see concrete financial allocations for this, then what the President has said, the minister will now give expression to what the President has promised. He said in the next financial year, that is 2017 financial year. So I expect that to happen. He said that they will start the process of reclaiming mined out areas in the country. So I expect to see a specific project on reclaiming mined out areas in the country. He said that they will establish protected areas, will be established, this is, I'm quoting directly, will be established in every administrative region of Guyana. So we would like to see the Minister of Finance, consistent with the promise of the President, he would have to tell us in his budget what areas in the country, in all the 10 administrative regions, are identified as protected areas, and how much money he would put in the budget to give effect to that. We have seen the promise of renewable energy by 2025, 100%. By the way, I am very, very disappointed that after promising that the Norwegian assessment, the fact-based assessment that we had called for, because we thought a good project was sacrificed for political purposes, project that would have made a difference in Guyana. We called for a fact-based assessment. They promised to make it public in July, then in September. Now we are hearing January. Now, from our understanding, the assessment has been done, and the government may very well be in receipt of this assessment. Maybe they're not happy with the findings. And so why wait until January? Why not allow it to come out now? But tomorrow I will issue a comprehensive statement on Amila. So today I'm not going to deal with this too much. But we expect some initiative to start in this budget regarding concrete steps to achieve renewable energy. And it cannot be the Lloyd Singh project. Cannot be the Lloyd Singh project, because that's a ripoff. So he spoke about the climate adaptation and that it will form part of the matrix of measures in the 2017 national budget. So we hope to see in the budget again. And these are things that you have to hold the minister accountable for. If your president comes to the parliament and says, here are the things that I will put in my budget next year, the minister doesn't do it. And it means someone is duping us. So we expect to see adaptation measures, a series of adaptation measures in the budget. The president said he will establish planning units in all the ministries. We expect to see the minister speak about that. He spoke about internet connectivity to government buildings will be extended to all government buildings, police, etc. We want that. We want to see how much it will cost and will be established. The president spoke about public service will be improved alongside the development of capital towns in 2017. So I expect they're going to be moving on new capital towns, but I hope it's not going to be done the same way they did with the naming of these 5 towns, that no consultation with people. They just decided to do it. But we want to see specific measures in the budget, because they said in 2017 they're going to be naming new capital towns. So we want to see what provisions will be in the budget. I'm just going through not everything I'm going to be speaking on. The 2017 national budget will reflect the harmonization of the SDGs with our national development plans, particularly in the social sector. So 2 things. We expect to hear about the national development plans in the social sectors and how they're going to be harmonized with the SDGs. This is very, very important. The president has promised this. National development plans outlined in the 2017 budget and how they will be harmonized with the budget. The 2017 budget will evince measures aimed at developing a more diversified and climate resilient agricultural sector. We will promote agricultural expansion for the inland by introducing mega farms in the intermediate and Rupunoni savannas. So we have to see in this budget a series of measures to do this. He said 2017 incentives, and they need to tell us who the people are to, who they're negotiating with. So that's one, that's very important. We want to see specific mention of the Rupunoni and intermediate savannas and how we have big concerns about it. how they're going to implement mega farms. They're going to promote the expansion in the same 2017 budget, non-traditional agricultural production such as coconut, fruit, and spices. So it can't be the coconut fest that Nagamutu starred at in Nagamania. It cannot be that. Specific measures. And by the way, isn't it conceited to talk about Jagdeo is anti-Nagamania and against any mania or manic behavior. So Nagamutu is conceding that he exhibits manic behavior and that I'm against it, and he's right. I'm against any manic behavior. The anti-Nagamania. He is just full of himself. And his greed knows no upper limit. He secured his pension already through the 7/8, but he wants to latch on to this Hamilton Green thing now to get the maid and the security and everything else. God, his greed knows no limit. Anyhow, let me come back to this. Promote the increase of aromatic rice production, etc. So the president has promised a lot of things in his speech that will be in the 2017 budget. We are hoping that there will be other things. We are hoping that there will be an increased package of increased set of measures aimed to stimulate mining, particularly small gold miners, small and medium scale operations. We are opposed to any adjustment in the price that the government pays for gold. And I can speak to you about why, but and how it doesn't make sense to do it. But that is conversation maybe for another press conference. But we're opposed to it, and we're opposed to any attempt to remove concessions. We believe that the sector needs more help now, particularly small and medium scale miners. We want specific help for the loggers, particularly small loggers. They're facing a rough time because of this inept government policy. And don't listen to Trotman. Don't listen to Trotman. As I said at the last meeting, he's confusing climate objectives and climate payments, that the sale of carbon services with production. They don't conflict with each other in Guyana's case and under the Norwegian agreement. I'm not dealing with him now. So we are in favor of that. We're in favor of the help to the sugar industry. We want a clearly defined plan for how the government intends to move forward with the sugar industry. It cannot be by the head of Gaisuko giving an interview with Kaitro News or sniping, etc. The government is yet to clearly lay out how it plans to move with the industry. What are their plans? Do they plan to close factories? Do they plan to privatize factories? Do they plan to scale down production? If they're diversifying, what are they going to diversify into? Who have done the studies? Whether these things are economically viable? What will they do about the social consequences, etc.? We're yet to hear all of this. We're hoping that the budget will bring clarity. But let me tell you what is happening. And Skelton, we've heard a lot of talk. This government and some elements of the government, like we've seen pockets with what's happened with the Bond Gate and now the Durban Park Gate. Whatever you call it, that's not a gate. Well, that might be a gate. You need a better word for that. Fiasco, scandal. That pockets of people are negotiating private deals. So, at least 2 ministers and some government officials have visited a particular major sugar company abroad to get them interested in taking over. In fact, we're talking to them about taking over Skelton, buying Skelton. They've even started talking price. From information that we have is that if the company gets it at that price, they will be huge beneficiaries of private arrangements. And we need to watch this, that the government may very well have identified individuals or to take over these things, or companies that will be generous to them. And the same thing at Wales. We heard a few big people will get most of these contracts and stuff. Are they going to tender for the civil works when they've taken the money from GRDB, the rice farmers' money that we left to fund the diversification there in Wales? So a lot of needs to come. The minister needs to be clear in the budget about the things I mentioned, about Gaisupu, where they're going. It's large enough. He needs to also be clear in the budget because all of the settlements the president spoke about, have had an impact on fiscal space, either through increased expenditure. So if he claimed that we left these settlements that they have to pay out, which we've dealt with already adequately to show how they're working deals there too, then it is increased expenditure. And then the DDL matter and some others will affect revenue and future revenue. So they all impact on budget. He can't say that they don't impact on fiscal space. So he needs to explain in the budget the principles guiding those settlements. We want the $10,000 that the children had restored. We want the water subsidies restored to pensioners. These are just a few of the things, our expectations of the budget at this stage. I'll speak more about it when the budget is presented.